Prices are rising just about everywhere, but is it because of supply and demand fundamentals, or is it more likely speculation? Well, the information I will show you today will highlight exactly what's going on, particularly as we move in to the next few months. This was a video that I did just before this one that is basically talking about inventory. Inventory levels in real estate are the number one thing that we should be paying attention to. And so we have this. BMO wrote up this report, and what they had to say was quite telling. It sounded a lot like a Money GPS episode. If you have the time, go in the description under the sources, and there is a very good article waiting for you. The Canadian real estate bubble's supply shortage myth is unraveling. That's according to BMO, but I have to say they make some very, very good points. And so they essentially talk about the fact that this was driven by a speculative bubble, not a supply shortage. And one of the key points that I want to make sure I mention here is the fact that as soon as interest rates start to rise, inventory starts to rise along with it. Suddenly there is no supply shortage anymore. Isn't that funny? Isn't that unusual? But of course, it's not everywhere. You look in some areas and markets are still tight, but this is starting to pop up. And they also mention the fact that you look at some of the smaller cities and towns that went absolutely berserk. And they talk about Chatham. This is one place, as they say here, it's a nice but unremarkable town about 3 hours from Toronto. And you look at it here, it actually went, the prices were nowhere. Let's just look at this. From 1995 until about 2015, they barely appreciated. But suddenly, they just started to skyrocket. And in fact, prices went higher than what you see with the red line there. That's Edmonton. A place that, like they say, nice, but it's 3 hours from the big city, and among other things. So did they say, what they say in here is essentially, was it a supply shortage or was it mainly speculation? Now, of course, you got people moving out. Look, this is before 2020, okay? The prices started to go up before 2020. Do you see that? 2020 is right in here. Okay, then it went up even higher. I understand. But it's so interesting to see this. No, every market didn't suddenly run out of housing after rates were cut. You see? It's interesting the way that this works. Strange how cities as widespread as Windsor, Welland, Woodstock, and Waterloo all simultaneously had a pressing supply shortage after decades of no such talk in this region. And they just talk about how everywhere around the world suddenly ran out of land, right? Is that the way it works? Ran out of real estate just suddenly like that. Where did all these people come from? They make all these very good points in here, and there's so much more. And yes, I understand. I've read the data. I read it every single day. But they do make points that are just hard to argue. So let's look. GTA, Greater Toronto Area, faces unprecedented surge in terminated condo listings of 643% in 6 months. Now, of course, it's coming from a low number and all that, but the point here is that people are starting to back away. They're starting to say interest rates are getting a little bit too hot right now, and prices, as they say here, canceled Toronto property listings surge as prices come off the boil. Homeowners are waiting. They're waiting and seeing. Rental home investors, so these are big companies in the US, slow purchases as doubts cloud US prices. And that's something that we should be paying attention to because the big money, as they say here, is waiting out the high prices. Prices are too high, interest rates are high. Well, you know what? Maybe we'll wait 6 months, we'll wait a year, and then we could start to acquire. That's what a lot of people are doing. That's what a lot of businesses are doing. And this seems to be a global issue. New Zealand's housing market has abruptly snapped from frenzied to floundering, and it may be a harbinger of what's to come around the world. This is showing you here, sales are plunging by double digits. Excuse me. Prices just fell the most in 13 years, and homes that have previously sold in days are now sitting on the market for weeks. These type of things, you will see them all around. And what I believe right now is that, yeah, you're going to get those pockets. You're going to get places where things are just going up and up. And I see your comments, trust me. But we need to understand what's happening here on the whole. Like, what's the analysis? Your individual market could be different than this analysis. That doesn't mean that. It's just, we're kind of just trying to understand, okay, they increased rates and now suddenly everything has changed. What did they say all along? Inflation is transitory. The central banks, every single central bank said that inflation is transitory. Every single analyst, all the professional analysts out there, most of the people in the mainstream YouTuber community, they all said it. They all repeated it. And then the comments were going all over the place. Oh, inflation transitory, inflation transitory, inflation transitory. Oh, here we are in 2021. Don't worry, it's inflation transitory. And then it's 2022. Inflation is not so transitory. Okay, but don't worry. The Fed will just cut interest rates at a later date. Okay, if you want to continue to believe them, that's fine. There's an amazing glut of office space in every major metro area. And you look at this across the United States, this has certainly picked up. Okay, it is, no question about it. Certainly we're better than where we were in like April or May of 2020, but this is a fact. And with all of this empty real estate, you got to start judging what's going to happen to the debt that is owed here, the empty spaces that are not going to be filled. This is important. You look at these places, the big cities, they're not exactly hollowed out, but there's an issue, and sure, the can is being kicked down the road, but with higher interest rates, it's probably not going to be looking good for the second half of this year. We're in that and into the, I would say, first quarter or into the second quarter of next year. I think a lot of this will come to the surface. And it ultimately, just to sort of seal this off before we move into the next factor I need to discuss with you, retail investors' appetite for speculation appears insatiable. And that goes, as this article is talking about, with stocks, but also with real estate too. And you look around the world and seems to kind of be the same thing. And we know that none of that left. There really isn't any fear in the system. And the reason I say this is because, when we see, I don't think I was showing you this, retail investors' appetite for speculation appears insatiable. What we see right now is the same type of stocks were being bought up that were really hot in 2020. And then in 2022, as soon as the market bounces up a bit, which is performing quite well right now, broke out of a channel that it was in, you see the same type of things happening, the same patterns. It's like nobody wants to learn their lesson. You got to watch and be very careful about this. If you appreciate the information, hit that thumbs up button. Let's talk about this. AT&T, their shares fell as the company said, we got some cash flow issues. Why? Because they were hurt by customers' later phone payments. What does that mean? Well, quote, there's clearly some dynamics in the economy. That's what they call it, dynamics. We have customers that are stretching out their payments a little bit. We expect that they're going to continue to pay their bills, but they're taking longer to do it. That's not atypical in what they call economic cycle. You mean a recession? Is that what you meant? And it's like somebody owes you money and they say, I'm gonna pay you. I'm gonna pay you. I know we agreed to today, but it's just gonna be next month. It'll be next month. Okay. This showing you right here, the red line, U.S. initial jobless claims that have moved up to a level we haven't seen since December. This is just giving us an idea of what's happening with the job market. And then you have the supply chain factor, which I'm not denying. Let me be clear about that. I'm not denying what's happening in the supply chain. I highlight it every single day. But what really drives prices for certain things? Low water again threatens to sink industries along the Rhine. So this right here, the Rhine River, all the way up. Right here, you see it coming down Amsterdam, follow it all along through Germany. I believe this is Europe's biggest river, all the way down to Switzerland. Very important. And not only will we see potentially the amount of ships that are moving through here declining, but as they say here, sinking the industries along that waterway. This is very important for Europe right now, dealing with so much. Prices are so high. I would be watching very carefully. Now, I just want to show you what's happening here with energy, coal specifically. I got several charts to show you, and the reason I'm showing you this is because we were in a time in which coal, what was the quote from Obama? He said something like, you can start a coal business, but we're going to bankrupt you, something along those lines. And that gave you the idea that this is basically it for coal. Like, don't operate in coal, don't do new mines, don't do anything with coal because it's just not going to be, profitable. And you see that right now. Well, coal, the usage, the amount that's being used today, we haven't seen in a long time. In fact, global electricity generation from coal from 1985 up until 2021, and you look at it right now, surging. Okay, you measure it year over year, you measure it just in total amount used, it's going up. Global coal fire generation, Asia being at the top by far, and of course, China being one of those. You can see Newcastle, Australia coal futures absolutely skyrocketing from 2021 into 2022. And now it appears that China and Australia might be BFFs once again. So that would be very beneficial for Australia in that regard. Northwest Europe gas and coal prices, these have both risen. The yellow line is gas, and you could see what's going on right now. People are paying more. People are going through this recessionary process. My goodness, I wasn't even showing you the screens. Let me go through that really quickly, really quickly. Look at this. I'm not gonna go around and edit. Look at it. You could see jobless claims right now, unbelievable. Low water again threatens to sink industries along the Rhine. Looking at the actual river itself, okay? Looking at coal skyrocketing. The usage across Asia, across China specifically, the coal futures off the charts. Seeing gas, seeing coal going to these new heights. We have never seen anything like this before. And what does this all mean? There we go. No editor needed. By the way, speaking of which, stay to the end of the video if you're interested on the situation with the job situation, that my personal situation with that. Basically, I just wanted to say right now, prices are going up. We see the recession factor. We look at this day in and day out. We pay attention to the data, and it shows us that there is severe weakness right now. And that is because 100% because of the lack of stimulation from the government, stimulation from the central banks. They turned off the taps, and now suddenly all these problems appear. It is not a surprise. It is absolutely fundamental. If you appreciate the information, hit that thumbs up button. And of course, you've got to join the 282,000 subscribers that are here, or 283,000, depending on when you watch this video. That's it. I want to thank you for being here today. Now, you stayed to the end. Just for those who are interested in what's happening with the job situation, let me just tell you. So I wanted to hire somebody. I really did. I went through every single one of the applications. I conversed with many people to one degree or another through email. I looked at, basically the channel. So what's happened is I've lost Masterworks as a sponsor. The girl told me basically they're just cutting from their spending. So it looks like I got cut. That was going to be the income. That was going to be what would pay the person. So That's it. There's no more income. Views are just horrendous. I was getting the same level of income in like 6 years ago from the business. So it's unfortunately it's done basically. So I apologize to everyone that applied. I know you spent time on those emails. I read every single email. I went through them. But that's the nature of the situation with the channel. So I tried really hard, didn't work out. I'll still make videos and hope you'll still watch them. That's all. Thank you.